Michael Carter stood across the street from Carter's Classic Pizza, the familiar scent of oregano and yeast drifting over, twisting his stomach into knots instead of warming his soul. At 52, that aroma had been his compass for 15 years, unlocking the diner's doors each morning, a ritual tying him to the dream he'd built from his grandfather's recipe book. Today, though, it stung sharp and sour as he adjusted the faded Red Sox cap borrowed from his teenage son. A diehard Yankees fan, he'd picked it deliberately. His staff would never suspect him under this disguise. His crisp button-downs and slacks were swapped for baggy jeans and an oversized hoodie, making him look like a middle-aged dad chasing youth. "You've got this, Mikey," he whispered, tugging the cap lower, his breath fogging in the March chill of 2025. Through the diner's big windows, he saw Tom and Lisa, his cashiers, moving with a lazy swagger that clenched his jaw. Something was wrong, deeply wrong, and it wasn't just the numbers screaming from his spreadsheets at home. Carter's Classic Pizza sat on a bustling corner, its red awning faded but proud, the neon open sign flickering faintly in the late morning light. Inside, the hum of ovens and clatter of trays should have buzzed with life. But the energy was off, tables half empty, the air thick with grease and neglect. Once this place thrummed, families laughing, kids smearing sauce on their faces, the jukebox crooning Sinatra. Now, it sagged, a shadow of the legacy Michael had poured his life into. Revenue had cratered, down 40% in 3 months, a gut punch he couldn't dodge. Worse were the little cuts. Mrs. Romano, 14 years of Tuesday Veggie Supremes, gone for weeks. The Martinez family, birthday regulars, canceling their slot. The high school basketball team ditching him for Pizza Hut. He pulled out his phone, the latest one-star review glaring back. "Hair in my pizza." Manager didn't care. Never again. His kitchen staff wore hairnets. Always had a rule etched in stone since day one. His grandfather's voice echoed in his head. "Cleanliness is trust, Mikey." This wasn't a mistake. It was a wound. Michael wasn't supposed to be here. Not like this. At 52, he'd grown Carter's from a single oven in a rented shack to this, a neighborhood anchor, all on grit and a handwritten recipe book. Stocky, with salt and pepper hair and hands calloused from kneading dough, he carried the weight of 3 generations. In 2010, he'd started with a loan and a promise. Honest food, fair prices, a place where people belonged. He'd tossed pizzas himself, greeted every regular by name, kept the books by lamplight. Now, he spent too many hours in his home office 50 yards away, buried in ledgers, trusting staff to hold the line while he wrestled suppliers and taxes. The diner stood, yes, but it didn't feel like his anymore. Sleep fled him lately, the losses piling up, customers' revenue pride. He'd lie awake, replaying Mrs. Romano's smile, the Martinez kids' cheers, wondering where he'd slipped. Reviews turned brutal, cold pizza, rude staff, and his gut, the same instinct that pushed him to buy that second oven in 2015, roared trouble. Reports from his shift leads, Tom, Lisa, even Sarah, said all's fine, but the disconnect gnawed. So he'd raided his son's closet, ditched his Yankees gear, and walked in as a stranger. He needed the raw truth. It began with the numbers, stark and cold on his desk 3 nights back. Michael had sat under a dim bulb, coffee gone bitter, staring at the plunge, 40% in 90 days. Catering gigs vanished. 3 big ones in a week, clients mum on why. He'd scrolled Yelp then, each review a jab. Tastes like cardboard, service is a joke. One stung deepest. Used to be my favorite, now it's trash. He'd checked the kitchen logs, sauce made daily, dough proofed 72 hours, cheese from that Wisconsin dairy he'd handpicked. It didn't add up. His grandfather's recipes, scribbled in Armenian with English notes, were sacred. Every gram measured, every spice sniffed for perfection. He'd made yesterday's sauce himself, humming as he stirred. Yet here he was, watching a young couple exit, their faces sour. "Cold in the middle," the girl muttered, tossing half a slice in the trash. Michael's chest caved. Cold centers didn't happen. Not in his ovens, not with his care. He crossed the street, the bell chiming as he entered, its faint squeak and nag he'd normally fix. Today, he's slumped to the counter, head low, just another guy. "Welcome to Carter's," Tom mumbled, eyes glued to his phone, not looking up. Michael had hired him 2 months ago. 22, shaggy hair, references solid, but something always fell off a hunch he'd ignored. "Yeah, a pepperoni slice and a Coke," Michael said, pitching his voice high, adding a tremor. Tom glanced up, bored as death. $7.50. Michael handed over cash, watching close. Tom didn't touch the POS system, new, pricey, installed last year. Instead, scribbling on a cheap notepad, yelling, "1 pep slice," to the kitchen. The receipt came, thin, flimsy, not the thermal paper Michael ordered. He pocketed it, frowning, and took a seat near the counter, the lunch rush looming. His slice arrived, lukewarm, cheese congealed like glue. He winced, tasting cardboard where spice should sing. This wasn't his pizza. Construction workers rolled in, regulars, meat lovers fans, ordering through Lisa, a wiry 24-year-old with a tight ponytail. Again, no POS, just a notepad, her scribbles quick and secretive. "Quality's gone downhill," one worker grunted, biting into a limp slice. "Remember how good it used to be?" Michael's fingers dug into his crust, his grandfather's voice whispering, "Food is love, Mikey." He'd proof dough for 3 days, sourced mozzarella from a family farm. Where had it gone wrong? The rush picked up, complaints piling, cold slices, wrong orders. And Tom and Lisa's replies were a script. "We'll tell the owner, management knows." Then it hit, sharp and icy. A young mom slammed a pizza box down, voice quaking. "3rd time this week. Plain cheese for my kid's party, and it's jalapenos and hot sauce." Lisa's smile was silk. "So sorry, ma'am, delivery glitches." "Refund," the mom snapped. "I want the owner." Tom jumped in, smooth as glass. "Mr. Carter's away. Personal issues." Michael's chest locked. He'd been in his office daily, not away. How many had heard this lie? The mom stormed out, refunded, and Michael froze mid-bite as Lisa leaned to Tom, her whisper slicing through a lull. "It's almost too easy," she chuckled, low and venomous. "He still thinks people just don't like his pizza anymore." His heart stopped, the room tilting. He fumbled his phone, opening the recorder app, hands trembling as he aimed it at the counter. This wasn't bad service or sloppiness. It was a plot, a blade aimed at his back. Tom's bored eyes, Lisa's smirk. They weren't just failing him. They were sinking him. He forced another bite, casual, but his mind screamed. Who was he to them? Some distant boss they mocked. And what were they hiding behind those notepads? Michael gripped his Coke, the condenting under his fingers, as the diner buzzed around him. Customers grumbling, ovens hissing, Tom and Lisa plotting feet away. "They're killing my dream," he thought, the recorder humming softly. This wasn't just a slump. It was sabotage, and he'd walked into the heart of it. "If you're as stunned as I am," he muttered under his breath, "hit that like button, subscribe. We're digging deeper." Michael Carter hunched over his table at Carter's Classic Pizza, the lukewarm pepperoni slice forgotten as Lisa's whisper, "He still thinks people just don't like his pizza anymore," looped in his head like a broken record. His phone's recorder hummed softly, tucked beside his Coke, catching every word from the counter where Tom and Lisa leaned close, their voices low but sharp in the post-rush lull. At 52, he'd faced plenty, supplier scams, slow winters, but this was a gut punch he hadn't braced for. His diner, his grandfather's legacy, wasn't just slipping, it was being gutted, and these 2 cashiers were in on it. He forced his hands steady, pretending to scroll Yelp, eyes flicking to them. Tom's bored slouch, Lisa's quick smirk. They weren't just sloppy. They were players in something bigger. He needed to see how deep this ran, and fast. The diner buzzed softly as the lunch crowd thinned. Construction workers grumbling over cold slices, a few stragglers nursing sodas. Michael's seat near the counter gave him a clear shot. Tom, 22, thumbs tapping his phone. Lisa, 24, restocking napkins with a casualness that prickled his neck. He hired Tom 2 months back. References checked, but that off vibe lingered. Lisa came 6 months ago, quiet but efficient. Until now. He watched as a regular. Joe from the auto shop ordered a sausage slice. Lisa scribbled on her cheap notepad. No POS, no beep from the system he'd sunk thousands in the last year. "One sausage," she yelled, and Joe's slice came out limp, grease pooling. "Used to be the best in town," Joe muttered, tossing half in the trash. Michael's jaw tightened. His dough proofed 72 hours, his sauce simmered daily. This wasn't his food. It was a mockery. He scanned the room, piecing it together. The POS sat dark, ignored while Tom and Lisa's notepads fluttered with scribbles. Orders, sure, but something else too, a rhythm too deliberate. A kid in a hoodie complained, "This is cold. Can you heat it?" Tom's reply was rote, "We'll tell the owner." Lisa nodded, management's aware, her eyes meeting Tom's in a quick, knowing glance. Michael's pulse spiked. They weren't just dodging. They were rehearsed, a script polished to deflect. He pulled the flimsy receipt from his pocket, running his thumb over its thin grain. Not his thermal stock, cheaper, off-book. His mind raced. Were they skimming cash, cooking 2 sets of books? The thought burned, but Lisa's chuckle still echoed. Almost too easy. This wasn't petty theft. It was a plan, and he was the fool in their crosshairs. The tension climbed as the rush ebbed, giving Michael space to listen harder. Tom leaned over, voice dropping. "Did you see his face last week? Checking the numbers? Looked like he'd cry." Lisa snickered, folding straws. Pathetic. Michael's breath caught. He'd been in his office, alone, staring at those reports, 3 catering gigs lost, revenue tanking. He'd thought he'd hidden the sting, but they'd watched, gloated. Tom patted his pocket, a small vial glinting briefly, clear, unassuming. "Sauce modifier," he murmured. Lisa raised an eyebrow. "Just a few drops. Tastes like cardboard." Dylan's chemist buddy's a genius. Michael's blood froze. Dylan Reese, tall, lanky, fired 8 months back after skimming registers. He'd screamed then, "You'll regret this, Carter." Michael had shrugged it off. Angry kid, big talk. Now, that rage had a name, sauce modifier, a weapon killing his pizza's soul. The pieces slammed together. Dylan's revenge wasn't just words. It was sabotage, and Tom and Lisa were his hands. Michael's fingers dug into his hoodie, his grandfather's voice whispering, "Taste his trust, Mikey." He'd measured every gram that morning, stirred sauce by hand. Yet here it was, cardboard on his tongue, Dylan's ghost in every bite. The bell chimed, snapping his focus as a mom with a stroller rolled in. "Large cheese, quick," she said, frazzled. Lisa scribbled, Tom yelled it back, and the pizza came, soggy pale. "This isn't cheese, it's a mess," the mom snapped. "Sorry, ma'am, system glitches," Lisa purred, offering a refund. "Owner's away," Tom added, smooth as oil. Michael's chest locked. Another lie, another dodge, and that vial in Tom's pocket gleamed like a confession. The air thickened as Tom and Lisa kept talking, oblivious to Michael's recorder. "Speaking of Dylan," Lisa said, wiping the counter slow, "he wants phase 2. Carter's too stubborn, not selling fast enough." Tom grinned, a chill in his eyes. "Already on it. Friend at the health department's set for next week. Major violations." Michael's skin crawled. Health codes? He'd scrubbed every inch of this place, passed every inspection with pride. "Risky?" Lisa asked. "Nah, Dylan's got it covered. Inspector's got gambling debts. Dylan's got photos. Once Carter sells, the new owners make it vanish." Michael's stomach roiled. This wasn't just sabotage. It was a takedown of for sale. His diner, his family's heart, dangled on a string, and they were tugging hard. The bell chimed again, jolting him upright. Sarah Chun, his head chef of 10 years, stepped in. Street clothes, not scheduled, her dark hair loose. "Hey guys," she said, voice subdued. "Carter in?" Tom smirked. "Nah, hiding in his office, crying over the books." Sarah's face flickered, a tightness Michael caught. She'd been distant lately, stress, he'd thought. But now? "Need to check something in the kitchen," she said, moving for the swinging doors. "Wait," Lisa barked, too sharp. Health inspector's coming, better not." Sarah paused, hand on the door. "Since when do you care about regs?" The air went taut, Tom's hand drifting to that vial. Sarah's eyes tracked it, narrow, then she pulled back. "Never mind, later." She slipped out, but Michael saw it. a small camera in her palm, a phone call as she hit the street. His pulse jumped. Was she onto them too? Outside, Sarah's figure faded, dialing fast, and Michael's mind spun. Sarah, loyal, sharp, hadn't just wandered in. She was hunting, same as him. That camera, her dodge. Did she suspect the vial, the plot? Tom watched her go, uneasy. Think she knows. Lisa shrugged. Doesn't matter. By next week, this place is toast. Health violations, then Carter's done. Michael's recorder caught it all, his hoodie hiding the sweat on his neck. Dylan's phase 2, fake inspections, a sale. He was staring at a conspiracy, not a slump. His pizza, his legacy, wasn't failing. It was being murdered bite by bite. Michael leaned back, the chair creaking under him, as Tom and Lisa resumed their prep, smirking, plotting, blind to the man they mocked. Sarah's camera flashed in his mind. Ally or wild card? He didn't know yet, but she'd seen something, and that vial in Tom's pocket was the key. They're tearing me apart, he thought, the recorder's red light steady. Who was Dylan answering to? Someone bigger, pulling strings. He needed more, and he'd get it. Michael grabbed his Coke, the can cold against his palm, as the diner hummed around him. Tom and Lisa scheming, Sarah's shadow lingering, the ovens hissing a lie. This isn't over, he vowed, the recorder ticking on. Who was bankrolling Dylan's revenge? And what did they want with his diner? Michael Carter sat rigid in his corner of Carter's Classic Pizza, the Coke can sweating in his grip as Tom's words, health department set for next week, sank into him like a stone. His recorder hummed, hidden under his hoodie sleeve, catching every syllable of the Cashiers plot. Dylan Reese's Phase 2, fake violations to force a sale. At 52, he'd weathered storms, flooded ovens, tight margins, but this was a siege, a calculated strike at his diner's heart. The vial in Tom's pocket, that sauce modifier, wasn't just sabotage. It was a symptom, a thread in a web he hadn't mapped. Lisa's casual shrug. By next week, this place is toast, lit a fire under him, but Sarah Chun's exit with that camera nod too. Was she ally or loose cannon? He needed the full picture, and a lunch lull gave him space to dig deeper. The diner's hum softened, tables emptying, the jukebox silent, and Michael's eyes locked on Tom and Lisa, their whispers growing bolder. Dylan's buyer's ready, Tom said, wiping a rag over the counter, slow and smug. Some chain, tear it down, build a franchise. Dylan gets a finder's fee, we get bonuses. Lisa grinned, stacking cups. Carter will watch his precious legacy turn into a burger joint. Michael's chest caved, his grandfather's recipe book flashing in his mind. Armenian scribbles, sauce secrets, a lifeline 3 generations strong. A chain? His diner, where Mrs. Romano cried over her first veggie supreme after her husband passed. Flattened for a drive-thru? His breath hitched, but then Tom added, Riverside Development slick, offered Dylan the gig after he got canned. Michael is Iran Riverside. 6 months back, their real estate guy had pitched a buyout, big money, smooth talk. He'd said no, firm, not for sale at any price. Now this, Dylan, a pawn for a corporate bulldozer. The revelation hit like a brick. Riverside Development wasn't just waiting. They were orchestrating, breaking his diner to scoop it cheap. Michael's mind spun back. Revenue drops, lost regulars, bad reviews, all since Dylan's firing. He caught the kid pocketing cash 8 months ago, cameras nailing him red-handed. Dylan's exit was ugly. You'll pay Carter, but Michael thought it ended there. Now, that vial, those notepads, the health violations, it was a script, Riverside's playbook, to force him out. He rubbed his temple, the weight of it crushing. Had he built this place, kneaded dough with his dad, opened with his grandfather's blessing, just to see it raised by suits who'd never smelled yeast? His legacy wasn't failing. It was being hunted, and he'd been too blind, too trusting, to see it coming. The air grew heavy as Michael wrestled the truth. How many others, Mrs. Romano, the Martinez family, had tasted cardboard and walked away, thinking he'd let them down? He glanced at the counter, Lisa flipping her notepad shut, Tom tapping his vial pocket with a smirk. Dylan says Riverside's got a twist, Tom murmured, voice dropping lower. Once the sale's done, they pin it all on him. Solo act, rogue employee. He's clueless. Lisa's laugh was sharp. Sucker. Thinks he's getting rich. Michael's gut twisted, a double cross. Riverside wasn't just breaking him. They were setting Dylan up to burn, a fall guy, for their dirty game. Tom and Lisa didn't even blink. Pawns, too, blind to the bigger board. His recorder caught it, but the stakes soared. Corporate sabotage, not just revenge. And he was the last domino. The crisis peaked as a new customer, a delivery driver, cap low, ordered a large pepperoni. Lisa scribbled, "No POS," and the pizza came out cold, topping sparse. "This is garbage," the driver snapped, shoving it back. "Tell Carter to fix this dump." Tom's reply was silk. "He's away, sorry man." The driver stormed out, and Michael's fists balled under the table. Another lie, another lost soul, and that health inspection loomed. Next week, fake violations to seal his fate. He saw it clear now, Riverside's plan. Tank his reputation, rig the codes, push him to sell cheap. His office, 50 yards away, held that recipe book, his grandfather's pride. Would it end as ash under a franchise sign? The thought clawed at him, a fear he couldn't shake. Had he failed 3 generations, letting greed bury their dream? The darkest moment struck as Lisa leaned in, voice a hiss. "Dylan says the inspector's bringing evidence, money laundering, fake books." Carter looked like a crook. Tom chuckled. "Perfect cover, business tanks he sells to dodge jail." Michael's vision blurred, his diner's soul slipping through his fingers. Money laundering? He'd counted every penny, paid every tax. His grandfather drilled honesty into him. "Food's our bond, Mikey." Now, Riverside was framing him, painting him a criminal to his community. The notepads, 2 sets of books, receipts swapped to bury him. He'd walked in to save his pizza. Now he faced losing everything. Reputation, legacy, freedom. Tom and Lisa's smirks, Dylan's vile, Riverside shadow. They had him pinned, and as just another customer, he felt powerless, a ghost in his own ruin. Then, a flicker, Sarah Chun's voice outside, sharp on her phone, drifted through the cracked window. "Yeah, I've got proof. Tom's got something, and it's not just sloppiness." Michael's head snapped up, her silhouette pacing the lot. She'd seen the vial, caught it on that camera. His chef, 10 years loyal, wasn't just stressed. She was fighting too. "Need to move fast. Hell thing's fake," she said, then hung up, eyes scanning the street. Michael's pulse jumped. Sarah knew, or part of it, and she wasn't running. She was digging. But did she know Riverside, or just Dylan? His recorder ticked on, catching Tom's next line. "She's nosy. Hope she doesn't screw phase 2. Lisa shrugged. Too late, Carter's cooked. Michael's breath steadied. Sarah was a lifeline, but the clock was ticking, and Riverside's net was tightening. Michael slumped back, the chair groaning as the diner's shadows stretched. Tom and Lisa plotting, Sarah's call echoing, his pizza congealing on the plate. His grandfather's face flashed, smiling, sauce-stained apron, handing him that book. "This is us, Mikey. Keep alive." He'd failed that promise. Let it rot under his watch. But Sarah's fight sparked something. Anger, yes, but hope too. Riverside thought him weak, Dylan a tool, Tom and Lisa pawns. They'd misjudged him, and maybe her. "I'm not done," he thought, the recorder's light steady. Could he turn this trap around, or was his legacy already ash? Michael gripped the table edge, the wood rough under his palms, as the diner's shadows stretched. Tom and Lisa scheming, Sarah lurking, Riverside's jaws closing. "They're burying me alive," he whispered, the recorder rolling. Could he claw out of this pit, or was it too late to save his diner, his name, his soul? Michael Carter sat in the dim corner of Carter's Classic Pizza. Lisa's chilling words. Carter looked like a crook, ringing in his ears as his recorder glowed softly under his sleeve. The weight of Riverside Development's plot, fake health violations, money laundering frame-up, pressed down, threatening to crush 52 years of grit and his grandfather's legacy. But Sarah Chun's voice outside, sharp and urgent, "I've got proof," lit a spark in the dark. At his lowest, With Tom and Lisa plotting feet away, he saw it clear. He couldn't fight as a ghost in a hoodie. He needed allies, Sarah's camera, their ignorance, and a plan to turn Riverside's trap inside out. His hands steadied, the fear hardening into resolve. This wasn't just his diner. It was his family, his community, and he'd claw it back, slice by slice. Michael slipped out as Tom and Lisa prepped for dinner. The bells squeak a quiet goodbye to just another customer. Around the corner, Sarah waited by her car, arms crossed, her dark eyes locking on him. "Nice hat. Yankees fan," she said, a faint smile breaking her tension. He yanked off the Red Sox cap, heart pounding. "How long do you know?" She tapped her phone. "Since you limped in, old baseball injury. But this." She showed him photos, Tom's vile, tampered invoices, texts from Dylan. "Been tracking it weeks." Michael's throat tightened. "Why not tell me?" Sarah's gaze dropped. "Thought you were selling. Insurance updates, property reassessment. Looked like you'd staged it." He winced. Routine moves twisted against him. But she held up a text. Dylan bragging, "Carter's the target." "He got sloppy," she said. "Riverside's behind him, buying the block for him all. You're the holdout." Michael nodded, fire rising. "They frame me. Dylan takes the fall. Tom and Lisa don't even know." Sarah's grim smile matched his. "Let's cook him." The counterstrike kicked off fast. Michael dialed an old friend. FBI white-collar crime, a favor from his catering days. "Riverside's dirty, corporate sabotage, fake books. I've got recordings." The agent's voice crackled. "Links to a RICO case. Send it." Michael forwarded Sarah's files and his audio. Tom's vile boasts, Lisa's phase 2, Riverside's name. Sarah set the bait, calling Dylan. "Meet me tonight, bar 3 towns over. Riverside's screwing you." Michael hit Riverside's offices next. Tie on, no disguise. Gerald Walsh, regional director, rose with a shark's grin. "Mr. Carter, selling yet?" Michael sat, voice steel. "Not here to sell, here to offer. I've got proof. Payments to Dylan, fraud, espionage. FBI's interested." Walsh's smile faltered as his phone buzzed. Dylan, raging, forwarding Sarah's leak of Riverside's betrayal. "Unpredictable, ex-employees," Michael said, standing. "My diner stays mine." Walsh's face drained as Michael walked out. Phase 1, chaos zone. Back at the diner, Michael prepped the showdown. Dylan burst in at dinner rush, wild-eyed, shouting, "Carter, you set me up." Customers froze, phones out, news vans circling from Riverside's leak. Michael stepped from his office, calm. "Set you up? You stole cash, poisoned my food. Here's you plotting." He played the recording, Dylan's voice, sauce modifier, health inspector bribe, and the crowd gasped. Dylan lunged for the recipe book Sarah held, yelling, "I copied it. I'll beat you." Michael opened it, Armenian script gleaming. "You stole the fake English version, off by a pinch. Tastes never right." Dylan's face crumpled, his plan a dud, investors gone. Michael turned to the crowd. "Free pizza today, real recipes, my hands." Cameras rolled as he kneaded dough, narrating his grandfather's secrets, truth cutting deeper than Dylan's lies. The twist struck as Tom and Lisa slunk in, pale. "Interesting vial, Tom," Michael said, holding it up. "FBI tested, flavor killer confirmed. You're conspirators or witnesses?" "Pick," Lisa stammered. "We didn't know Riverside," Michael cut in. "You tanked my diner, 50 families' jobs." "Talk." They spilled Dylan's orders, notepads for fake books, Riverside shadow. On record as FBI agents cuffed Dylan outside, his media rant backfiring. Sarah whispered, "Riverside's ex-CFO flipped, testifying for our RICO suit." Michael's jaw dropped, corporate dominoes falling, his evidence the spark. News flashed. Local owner exposes conspiracy. Riverside stock tanked, execs indicted, the diner's lines stretching blocks by morning. 3 months later, Carter's hummed. Tables full, Mrs. Romano back every Tuesday. The Martinez kids blowing out candles. Michael stood out front, sun glinting off polished windows, a new sign, community protected since 2010. Sarah handed out folders to staff, a fund from Riverside Settlement, 10% of profits, shielding family diners from corporate rates. They thought tradition was weak, he told the team, recipe book in hand. It's our steel. A video call linked dozens of owners nationwide, their stories mirroring his, class action filed, Riverside's network unraveling. That night, he taught his son the real Armenian recipes, dough rising as they laughed, 3 generations alive in every need. Michael locked up, the bell chiming clean, and paused under the awning. The block thrived, locals, not chains, and his diner stood firm. Could this hold, or would greed rise again? He smiled, book tucked under his arm. If you believe in fighting for what's yours, he thought, subscribe, like, comment. Let's keep this fire burning.